I had to fix some things right before the stream started, and if I cut into the stream, that's normal. I just do that. That way I can just immediately get started. Also need to check because I was doing some save file stuff, and off we go. So, I mean, it's not a lot of events, but an event pack is still an event pack. Listen, even doing 2-3 events can be a lot of work, especially when you're bug testing your own events because of things. And now, that's gonna sound a little sad once the new update rolls in with... I believe it's not... the ideal solution, as we move into a custom characters here, is that Panstaz releases the content update and then the change to eventing in world... I call it eventing, I think there's a better word for it, but you get the point. There's going to be a change in how events kind of function, but hopefully it's not going to... Well, for the sake of most people with events, it's not going to be a complete rehaul, but as we get into World of Horror character exclusive custom content... Yeah, also, I noticed that there was a lot of talk before the stream, and that's a good thing. I was just like, whoa, I walked in, I was like, am I going into the wrong stream? I got worried for a moment, but yeah, it's, I had to change something. So for the moment, if you try to download certain this character specifically, I think I fixed things, but at the same time, if you see certain graphics not appear, like I think Crestfallen Mask, that's on purpose because this character does not have every single status graphic. So just kind of disclaimers at the moment, but Charisma, Takshisan, Knowledge, Dexterity. I'll try to go half and half between talking about stuff and then focusing on the game. Second encounter, maybe? So just to go really quickly, 2, 5, 4, 6, 3, 2 Strength, 5 Dexterity, 4 Perception, 6 Knowledge, 3 Charisma. You want to build Knowledge? The Strength, though, is really worrying me, but that's not too bad until we get to Zektas, because this is 1, 2, 3, 5 ZST. That's gonna be a lot. Like the small talk. Lost hope seeing any... Yeah, same thing. That's why I've been focusing on, other things I can do. Although I haven't really been focusing on, well, games I can play on this channel aside from game dev. I think I really want to get that... At least some more... I promise you it won't be a whole game. That's why I'm trying to ease it in. But at the same time, it would be great if I can go as far as possible. Occult Shop, please. And let's move on. So I think... This character is not on the Steam Workshop. I pulled it from the Discord, but I basically... Well, you can use 1.01 characters and put them in the places that you put 1.01 custom characters in. So... And the game in 1.02 public beta will still read the characters you have in 1.01. It just... also reads from characters in the, well, workshop location of your directory in 1.02. So that's why, yeah. Nothing much else more to say, because anything else might be misinformation, because I literally just pulled these characters and do it. Also, as I get into Scissors, Festival, Painting, Vigil, and Kana, I think a while ago, a long time ago, I said I wasn't going to play certain characters. I'm just going to throw caution to the wind. Well, not complete caution to the wind, but I'm just going to go out and play them because I feel like the modder deserves some credit. And I think if I don't have it included in these descriptions, in these descriptions for these streams, 1.02 streams, then the offer usually stands as long as it makes sense. If you don't want your character, on a video and or stream, let me know. I forgot to grab a weapon. And yeah, I'll just take the stream and or video down. I've been paid though. He's not taking a step back, so I don't need to worry too much. 4 reasons for this isn't bad, but hey. Am I still doing Stardew Valley videos? It's a bit harder because again, I use a different setup and it's hard for me to use that setup at the moment. I want to, but at the same time, even if I had the setup, I am kind of splitting time, which is probably not good for my channel. Because I suddenly just stopped that series, but I really would have liked to go back to it. It's not like I'm doing anything too complicated, so I could just go back to it when I want to. It's just, it's a setup that I need to work on. I'll see. If someone expresses it, because more than a few people have expressed, they have asked me, it's like, Jordan, why aren't you doing Stardew anymore? And it's like, yeah, so... I do want to go back to that. Again, it wouldn't even take a lot of time, because literally the way I'm doing those Stardew Valley recordings are literally just doing them on OBS and then just throwing them up. That's why the category is called Raw Video. Also, I don't know why I just entered this place without any funds, but guess we're going to take 2 curses instead to try and work with our Doom, because preparing is going to be a bit costly. Yeah, we'll do Holy Candle. We do need another source of damage. We also have Mind Drain, I just noticed. I think Ath gave me that, correct? I'm going crazy. Because we start with the Holy Candle, yeah, and then we got Shadow Shroud, which, if you don't believe in a location, or you're in a second threat level location, because Police Station can only cover one place, I suppose if you... Yeah, I suppose if you, for example, I have max Seaside here, but also have max Mansion pretend, then I can use Shadow Shroud in the Mansion location if I say take Vigil. But, Stardew Valley is a bunch of fun. Also, Rabbit Hole, that sucks me. Yeah, and that's the part of the thing too. I can't actually be sucked in right now because I'm doing game dev stuff. I will play other games for research. That's part of the research that just goes into me developing my own games. Because if nothing else, although, how should I say? I do my best not to copy other things that I see in other games, but at the same time, when you get to a broader scale, it's not really copying anymore. For example, if you make an RPG, it's not just like an RPG, any other RPG you get, because, you know, maybe the music's different, maybe the mechanics that are involved in battle are different, maybe the progression system of an RPG is different. Now, obviously, we can run this parallel to another thing, which is a certain Sampire Survivors, and then you see a bunch of games like that. If the game has an experience bar at the top, running along the top of a screen, if you run around and enemies start swarming you, which is a bit more, you know, conceptually sound. It's not something you steal from that genre. But then, say you pick things up after defeating, you know, bosses, and then a screen appears and flashing lights and jingly noises, then it's like, yeah, that looks like a Sampire Survivors thing. I think it's safe to say. Obviously, it's the more elements that you take from a certain video game, specifically one usually, then yes, obviously it's you're trying to take it. Not that you can't. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying that's something you can't do, but you must be confident enough, and of course have the resources to be, you know, put out a game like that and be competitive. 5 vows, by the way. Yeah, there's a difference between homage and stealing, and parodies, but yeah, needs to not look too similar. And that also includes the feel of things. You can certainly steal the feel of things and do that. Again, I don't personally like to do that, but obviously there are, you know, it's like, oh, that's a good idea, or the more objective way to look at it, also free experience here. But for a curse, but the my body, I also did not get water. The more reasonable way to look at it is that you want to look at something and say, where does it succeed and where does it fail? You can't always succeed, though. There's a certain point in which trying to improve on something actually takes away. For example, a certain hill that is quite quiet and being remade. I think even one of the big changes they did, and I know they did it for the sake of the, okay, I'll just use their words, the modern audience, but even something as, not tank controls, but static cameras, although it does absolutely, you know, can be frustrating to some players, I think adds an actual gameplay atmospheric value to the game. In that, so for example, when a certain Sunderman runs along a corner and the camera is only focused on basically, how should I explain it? This is not a good way to explain it, but so the camera's faced and you're running at the screen, but then you have to turn a corner left, but you can't see what's on the left. That adds value as opposed to, you know, a camera that you can move around and just swivel around the corner and be like, oh, there's nothing around the corner. There is, again, I think at least there's atmospheric value in that, both from an immersion standpoint and a gameplay standpoint. Because, I mean, it makes sense, right? Immersion-wise, bow, clap, by the way. It makes sense immersion-wise. Like, you can't, in real life, you can't actually see what's around a house corner until you turn the corner. Whereas in a video game, if you have the power of essentially omniscience, you can turn a camera and, you know, see around it. 2024. Wish indie videos, yeah, the remastered remakes. Any would kill Command and Conquer Red Alert 2 3 remake. I know a couple of people have been waiting for that. I know someone. I'm acquainted with someone who has that on their bio, and I'm like, oh man, I feel so bad. Along with a bunch of other IPs, but yeah, on the topic of things being remade and whatnot. I mean, love or hate either of these series, you do have to. I think it's observable that, you know, a certain Final Fantasy being remade is more, it's a better remake in that regard. Again, the game hasn't come out, so it's hard to judge in terms of the Quiet Hill, but I mean, at the same time, though, they're not first impressions, but there's a reason why advertising exists, and it's that when you look at something, you can get, and that's, what's the word? You can feel good or bad about something. Also, yes, this character starts with the holy candles. That's very, very good, by the way. You don't realize how many holy candle events there are, and while there are only like 3 or 4 at the moment, they're in places that matter. As a dog barks in the background. I'll actually not mute this as I calm these dogs down. Hey. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Can I go? I'll see you later. Silly dogs. But yeah. Also, I picked that up. I mean, I could handcuff something. I don't normally carry the handcuffs with me here, but hey. Yeah. So as for quote unquote taking things from video games, I think I found my own groove, but I don't know if I know it's not gonna, because a lot of the games I usually like to make are usually challenging in some way, and not by RNG. That I promise you. But there is some amount of RNG. I won't deny that either. Do I just want to go all out here? 80%, 80, 90. Ugh. Can I sell the handcuffs? Oh no, not right now. In battle, you can't sell anything, but my body acting up. But you know, it would be nice to actually. Can I do this? I can do this. Yeah. Well, close. 90%. Again, I'll repeat it. If I haven't already said it, I missed the 90%, by the way. But if I haven't said it, that kind of... Okay, that woke me up. Missing that attack woke me up. But anywho, I think something I mentioned by a long time ago, but I'll keep mentioning it because it's still relevant to this day, is that games with literally single indie devs that are single-manned for development, are coded and definitely do a lot better than indie games. Now, are they going to draw the most amount of people? No, but they accomplished the goal that they set to make when these games release themselves to the audience they're intended for. And that even that much is kind of lost on more than a few AAA games. But at the same time, I mean, again, we don't know how much money they're making, right? Maybe there's enough money being made that it doesn't matter. So from a business standpoint, you have to at least see where they're trying to go in terms of this stuff. But at the same time, like, there is something I once talked about with someone as we get into an event here and take an injury, because my luck in real life is quite bad, but where you want to not cater, but you do want to hold the veterans, the veteran audience, the people who've been with, say, an IP for a while. So, for example, I'm just going to throw this out there, but fans of... I'll just even use something like fans of Final Fantasy. Well, you want to keep those fans, because those fans are... And I think I do believe in this more than what I'm going to say after, but the old fans will help bring in new fans, because if you don't have old fans playing your game and you keep having new fans in another way, that looks like you are, you know, basically tossing out the old fans every time you make a new update to your game. Whereas, as we take Painting with 5 Stamina, yeah, whereas you keep the old guard, essentially, you keep the older players and bring in new players. And even if those new players leave, you at least still have a dedicated audience. But, yeah. Lexics and Tactics have mixed feelings about remake. Arguing with a friend about that, actually, because of FF14. And yeah, I mean, FF14 is a Final Fantasy in general. The IP is a big thing anyway. But for example, if suddenly Final Fantasy swerved and they've done a lot of genres, so it's hard to say. But suddenly they turned into, let's just say, a Vampire Survivors genre like game, like you would lose a lot of the old audience. And this is a very exaggerated example, but you get the point, where like kind of the heart of it is no longer there. And it's changed, and this happens. Obviously, we've seen this happen a lot between games that are updated now, and they stay in the same genre, but they change so much about the game that anyone who was a fan is like, I don't understand what you were doing here. But and yeah, the other side of that is again essentially trying to grab or the bigger audience, which again can work from a business standpoint because all you need to do is get someone to put money down on the game. I don't know why I slammed my desk to emphasize that point, but when you get someone putting money down on the game, the money's gone. The money's gone to whatever company or business or person is behind the video game specifically in this case. But at the same time, like you burn your bridges and you lose the faith of, again, people who were fans of the game, because how can they believe? And some people will just continue buying. That's just, you just have to see. But at the same time, also, I just ate holes in the face for some reason, but it's because I'm a bit heated, that's why. Ripped is, oh no, is there object? Desk slam. By the way, those games I think have been on sale for a while, but yeah. If I need reason I can use the Holy Candle, I should have actually used Mind Drain. But that's not a feature of the character, so you know what? I'm actually going to forget Mind Drain, because I think Ath gave me that. If this character actually starts at Mind Drain, they're an amazing character. But let's assume that they don't for a moment. And move on. Yeah, need to beat the newest one? Yeah. That's the one in... Without spoiling it, that's the one where you go to Khura'in, right? I believe Spirit of Justice. Because the one before that was Dual Destinies, if I am recalling correctly. Otherwise, I must be really behind. But we can't fight this boss. We just have to move on. Even though we have Kana. Also, we have Fearful, right? That's why we're losing reason every time we run into an enemy. Yes. Oh, the one in the 1800s. Oh. I'll just say the name. Ryunoichi 2. Ryunoichi. Now I need to look this up. Hold on. While I think about what to do here. I could just Desperate Struggle. I could also just run away. But... It's the second one of that. No, I know what now I know what one you're talking about. Yeah, Ryunosuke, but I think it is a bigger name because I keep mixing up the Japanese and the English names. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's about Naruhodo Ryunosuke as opposed to that one. The Great Eternity. Yeah, Great Eternity. Appear around me trying to get infinitely wealthy, by the way. No, they've beaten that game to its, I think, utmost conclusion. I don't know if they've completed the extra dungeon, but they've certainly gone farther in that game than in Rebirth. Sorry. Rebirth. Because, yeah, Rebirth does eat a chunk of your life. That game is huge. That I am failing to find anyone that has spent less than 30, 40 plus hours trying to complete that game. Like, actually... Although, I mean, if you rush towards it, yes, I understand. If you don't, yeah, no, but the general answer is no. No, because that game has been completed. And instead, people have been diving as a certain guy called Dave instead, because that game came out on, again, not promoting anything, but it came out, if you have a PlayStation Plus, I forgot what it's called, I think the premiums, it's the second tier of subscription for PS5 Plus. But if you have that, Dave the Diver is now free. I don't know if the DLC is free, but it seems like it. What extra with it? Extra dungeon for, I assume, Infinitely Wealthy doesn't count. It's DLC. Well, the answer is yes. Have I completed it? Funny enough, no. I have a really bad streak this year of starting games and not actually completing them. Hades 2 included yet, because Hades 2, I really am just trying to, like, be a perfectionist for some reason, even though I'm not. So, for example, like, I can no damage the first boss of Hades 2, which I feel everyone is able to at this point, but you get the point. I'm trying to do the same for the second and third bosses. I won't spoil too much, but yeah. Are all artists evil? Well, it depends what you define as evil. Hold on. I would rather not cough horribly into the camera, but yeah, it depends what you say is evil. I know a lot of people give a lot of flack to artificial intelligence, but at the same time, not that I completely support it, but I don't completely deny it, because there are some good people behind artificial intelligence trying to do good things. It's just that, like anything that's invented, there are going to be good actors and bad actors. Also dying to reason, but hey. As personas. Oh, you mean that? I haven't heard a lot about that. I know I've heard of it, but I didn't actually look into it yet. Hide behind some trees. So yeah, that's I mean, on a general level, I've also seen some things here and there as I increase my reason, or I recover reason, where essentially, yes, people are being replaced by essentially robots, but if you include artificial intelligence in that, yes, because from the business side of things, I'm not saying I endorse this, but I'm trying to get into the mindset as I run away from this Kinoko Gatherer that is doing -2 all damage to my face, is that it saves money by replacing human beings in some regards. You can't replace human beings everywhere. You can get close, but while we're getting closer to that moment, we are not at that moment. And by that I mean in digital, say for, I think digital design is definitely one of the areas where people human beings are being replaced by AI. Like, if it saves money, a company is more likely to do it because it doesn't cut their profit cuts. Now, that being said, you do need human beings in a lot of areas, and if it helps, the general public, I think it is held. That's the main reason why I'm against, not completely against AI, but it makes sense. But at the same time, yeah, if it saves money, then I can see why people are being replaced, also running away, because that's a lot of doom. So, RPO is gonna become real, or Wally, yeah. Listen, at this point, definitely after 1,000 years when we're all gone, it'll be interesting to see what the year 3000 looks like. But I mean, there's always a chance we're just not devolved, but we stay the same way we are now as we end this run on 54% Doom. The Holy Candle actually has done some heavy lifting here with 1 or 2. If for no other reason than it's a safe way to recover reason if you absolutely need it. But I forgot actually how much luck this character has, but let me just make sure I don't die here. We don't have a light check, we shouldn't... Oh no, we have Fearful, We need to recover some reason, which we can use the Holy Candle for here, as it turns out. And yeah, we should be fine. Knowledge, Dexterity, which we don't have 8 Knowledge, but we can just rest. Like, we can literally just rest. Do we have a 6th floor, by the way? No. So, we'll just do that and move on. Yeah, maybe in the year 3000, it'd just be a trend from the long days past. Now, that being said, the fact that it's actually... I mean, there's a less likely chance of that because of how... Like a lot of things that are invented for convenience, like even just, pots and pans being made so we don't have to put a stick through meat and hover it over fire. Like stubs and microwaves that help us out here and there. AI has a less likely chance of being made obsolete in that regard, but at the same time, hello, by the way. Yeah, endless mode humanity. Unless we wipe ourselves out, but I don't mean to doomsay, but that's just going into theoreticals. It's a double-edged sword. Like a lot of things, especially anything that can harm or has the ability to harm people in general, even just saying things like even a sewing machine, all right? It's great to be able to sew things a bit more comfortably, but if your fingers mess up, oof. Among other things. And then obviously using AI for very sensitive tasks like flying an airplane or doing a surgery, I feel is a bit more, that should definitely be left to a human being. I have seen... yeah. I mean, yeah. I can't actually think of any parallels. I was about to say like roller coasters, but obviously there's a jump between those two. That sounds absolutely ridiculous now that I say about it. But what I want to say is we get into Zecta's Cult character exclusive custom character once more. Is the topic of having to testing something over and over again, especially if it's something as sensitive, or that can put human beings at risk of great harm or worse. But yeah, where do I think that... Oh, during the Passion Project, the barrier for non-specialists is being eroded so the easy paycheck is gone. Yeah, that's something I heard too, the easy paycheck of, you know... So, I mean, that's something that depends on the person. It's... Like, I don't want someone just sitting there and getting money for pretty much... and not putting any work in. Would I replace that with AI? But at the same time... Second, by the way, Strength, Light, Attack, Shisan, Dexterity. I guess I'll try building into Strength. I need Strength anyway, and we're in Zectas, so... That being said, I'm gonna rush through, and if bad things happen, bad things happen. So yeah, that's one aspect I've heard of around the internet, at least. Close to Halloween, most likely. Yeah, and then the update for this game, on the other hand... Yeah, we're at March 78, or March 68, 78, possibly 98. The 98th of March we're on. Metamorphosis Teacher, Festival, Arms, and Coma. That looks terrible. I guess we'll just take this Doom damage to the face. We also now need a weapon, so that's why I'm going to visit Witch Tree, because I don't have the Doom to spare. This character dies at 42% Doom if I do nothing. That being said, as I accidentally visit the tree again, we have made a mistake, but 3 damage meat cleaver. This is gonna be a pretty atrocious run. We'll do our best though. Answers Hindu update might come out summer, and yeah, it's not like I can go crazy with layering, expensive color theory, shaking. If stuff feels need pilot helmet, the very otherwise you get very. At least in the terms of art, it's definitely not perfect. To the untrained eye, it can fool the untrained eye, but to a trained eye, obviously especially anything on the internet usually gets harshly criticized in terms of, hey, does this come from somewhere? Even if it's just someone, checking. Looking at the minute pixels of a thing. Do I even want to take this? I guess there's no point. I've already started swinging, so... Yeah. I think I can throw this meat cleaver, right? No. The answer is no. I can't even punch. So I guess we'll brace for the purposes of getting 3 reason. Can I do anything else? Wow, I really can't. I have made mistakes. If I die quickly, I'm just gonna do a salty run back. I did not look at my meat cleaver before buying it. Something you should also do in in real life, if you're buying a meat cleaver for cooking, please inspect your tools before you buy them. Hi there, by the way. It also can generate something completely fresh. It has to be a derivative Berg. It said, yeah, and that's something I've heard too. I haven't used AI myself. Like I look into. I mean, I've looked into things, but as to my understanding, now that you remind me as we get into this cultist fight, is that yeah, it does take from derivative works, which is why most of the time when you say AI art, the general example is a not hyper realistic, but a realistic. What's the word? I would describe it as a realistic color brush of people when looking for, say, young man lifting weights. And it depends if the style you're going, but if you're going for a non-realistic style, it's a hyper-realistic style, as I miss my kicks here, that has a certain style. For example, okay, let me pull this up, because this is actually gonna... This is the easy way I can put it, as I accidentally do the wrong thing, but that's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to do. Where am I going? This is actually quite important, though, because I think for me, it helps illustrate the point, but let me do this. So we'll switch over to this for a moment. And essentially, you don't see AI art that looks like this. You don't see AI art making generative art of this, because people are usually looking for a quote-unquote... Like, it's funny, but AI art, as I take this off the screen... AI art is biased in itself by combining things like that. Now, obviously, it has a different other sense of styles, but it's very... Again, it seems to me, in my opinion, that AI art tends to look for pretty art and therefore generates itself. Which, again, to the untrained eye, can be a thing. Good day, and then leave, unless you're not leaving. But I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not you, but if that's all you want to go on, I mean, that's my touch on AI art. Basically, if I draw anything, I feel, I mean, yes, you could officially, you could train AI to take from the style of, say, pixel art, in a sense, which I have seen attempts at, but pixel art, I think, is funny enough. Again, a lot of people like to look down on pixel art for, I don't know why, but and when I say a lot of people, I don't mean the general, like a majority of people. I mean more than a handful of people like to look down on pixel art because it's either like quote-unquote easy, doesn't have a lot of detail, so on and so forth, as I nearly die here. I can trade off reason. But you don't realize how, I think, I've talked about this before, I think, where pixel art is in a, pixel art, you can think of every pixel like brushstrokes in the way that, I'm just trying not to die here for a moment, and also put the sensor on screen, but you can look at pixel art as, so say a character is made up of, like even this character right here is made up of, like, maybe even over at like 1,000 pixels. That's like 1,000 brushstrokes that you have to make sure are right, because 1 or 2 pixels being off can make the difference between, you know, pixel art looking good and pixel art looking bad, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's the thing. Again, I don't personally believe in it. I think there's a reason why pixel artists are a specific genre that is hired, actually, just outright. But yeah. Rather untrained, you say it's more accurately the casual observer who isn't heavily invested in the medium. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Yeah, that's part of the thing, I think, is that, yes, obviously, that's the reason why we have even something as small as typesetters, or people who it's not create fonts. I think typesetter, let me just actually look it up. Now I don't want to spread information. I'm going to grab this, I am going to cite my source, which is Google. But a typesetter, wow, that didn't help either. Typesetter, a person who typesets font. Typesetting is the composition of text for publication, display, or distribution by means of rearranging physical type in mechanical systems or glyphs in digital systems representing characters. Basically, or in less than 5 words, the design of font. But obviously, like, even that much. So you have someone who makes font, and then you have someone who is in charge of typesetting, like, specifically. And this falls into the topic that I'm currently interested, which is game dev, because for game dev, you can hire someone to typeset the font in your video game. Now, not everyone, like, obviously one-man dev teams do not have this, but it can mean the difference between, you know, something, it makes your game a bit more crisp, I guess. But yeah, goodbye, Sensor Bunny. Really? I do need another weapon. Unfortunately, we have to do this for it. I am not fighting this boss without a weapon. That is not going to happen. That being said, we're going to get really close to dying, but maybe I should have left hardware store on. I guess we're going to find out. Otherwise, well, I didn't find a weapon anyway, so I guess we're going to let go of Ayato and hope we get a spell. Okay, fine. Book of Gore. And we hope and we pray. But we do need to increase all of our stats somehow. Otherwise, we Book of Gore at the thingamajiggy until we do things. Or we run to Burning Man. Let's see if even this can save me, though. I don't know if this is going to save me. But we'll find out. But yeah, typesetting is I really got into typesetting at a point in my life as I was doing game dev, because I was like, well, I was basically looking into fonts for games I want to play or make. Sorry. And then I looked more into what typesetting was, and I was like, whoa, whoa. So yeah, it's an important job, and what I started all of this typesetting talk because of how, you know, you don't really notice jobs or know about jobs until you look into them. And most people are not that. That's why we have professionals in many different fields. Whether you're a typesetter, whether you're a graphic designer for font, for advertisements, for movies, for movie posters. I was throwing broken bottles, so now my inventory is bugged. Why do I do this to myself? I've only done this to myself. We're definitely doing a salty run back. I promise you that. But bug. Yeah, no one can be good at everything. At the same time, let me switch that around because I think I've mentioned it before, but it's something I haven't said a lot more than the idea that, and people have mentioned that, yeah, we're not X profession, so therefore that's why we're X profession. At the same time, and this has come from this is someone who was once my let's just say my art teacher. I had an art teacher tell me once that while not everyone is an artist, people are human beings, and so the common human people who may not be trained in an aspect do have some valid input into art or this stuff. So one aspect of that is, well, for this specific instance, say a work of art, if someone can't look at art, especially art that is of human beings, because we're all human beings, we know what a human being looks like. And so therefore, when in this example, when we have AI making human beings, you can sometimes tell that something doesn't look right. You may not know exactly what it is, but it doesn't look right. Also pain, but hey. So yeah, we're definitely not gonna get out of this encounter because I have bugged out my inventory. So we don't even want the handcuffs. So let's see what we can do. We have Book of Gore. I accidentally visited. I'm really out of it. So, but at the same time, yes, you do want perfect. You do want, we are not lawyers, so when something happens, or we are not doctors, we're not gonna do surgery to ourselves. But at the same time, if you look at a surgery and something doesn't look right about it, while someone may be a qualified surgeon in this, I'm not throwing surgeons under the bus. I love you surgeons, I love you doctors, but if something does not look right, you don't have to doubt them, but you can ask questions, because if you ask a question to a doctor and they answer, that's fine. They feel confident. But if you ask a doctor a question and they go, maybe, then yeah, maybe something might be wrong. But yeah, so trust but verify. And it's getting harder to trust and verify because of how many, lies are being said here and there, or how much people are trying to, I guess, obfuscate things, but we can only hope for a better thing, or try to work towards a better thing. I think the better thing is to work towards something better, even if you make mistakes along the way. Now, there is a limit to that as well. Again, there's usually a flip side to every coin. You can't make mistakes when you are flying an airplane. That's why people go through intensive training, and even hands-on training, to make sure that everything goes well, among other professions. Nice broken jaw, by the way. I can no longer cast Book of Gore. This is the kind of RNG I'm talking about when I say, yeah, this is a great spell, but pain. We can't even dodge into anything because this character has low dexterity, and we have flashbacks as well. But you know what? In the interest, no, we can't even do that. So, dodge 90% kick to the way. Excuse me. And then yes, obviously it doesn't look good if, you have 3 different, in this case, we'll just say, lawyers, examining a 4th lawyer and saying, yeah, that 4th lawyer, I think specifically there was a thing about AI, right? One of them used ChatGPT, and every other lawyer was like, yeah, you don't do that. don't do that. But also, random item stats? Yeah, random item stats. So I guess we will prep Throw Branch. So dodge happened to work out here, but my RNG was so bad already. We're about to die to Zik task due to 0 statting, but we'll see. Yeah, firefighters and theoretically police as well. I know a few, or I've been acquainted with people who have become, or know people who have been police officers. Again, the majority of them aren't bad people. It's just that, a few bad apples can spoil the image of an apple basket. Not even spoil the apples. But again, that's just on my experience. Obviously, I only live in one place. People around the world may have different experiences, so I don't want to take away from that. I don't want to act like my truth is the general truth to all. Which is why I say things like, for me anyway, for people I know. But again, at the same time, I do know a few people who have had bad experiences in many different fields. It just doesn't, and this is coming from someone who relatively does not go. I do not go out often. I don't go party. I don't go out drinking. I don't go out to party. things like that. So if I'm saying this, then I can only imagine well, there's a reason why I don't often talk about real life experiences, because I don't have as many, even though I do have a lot. So yeah, excuse me. And then someone using ChatGPT for among other things, that like lawyers and things notwithstanding, using ChatGPT to commit tasks, which can normally not be reverse engineered, but now these days people look at something and wonder, did it go through ChatGPT? And that's not what you normally want. It's just that it's happened more than a few times because, well, it's happened more than a few times. We're going to do a salty run back, by the way. So back into the task, World of War character exclusive random item. And we'll see what happens, because the biggest mistake I made in that previous run was grabbing the meat cleaver. Strength, charisma, knowledge, light, maybe second encounter, but I'm gonna do hardware store for the purposes of maybe getting a heavy-duty flashlight. And if that doesn't happen, status. We're even gonna sell the empty bottle because I need the funds immediately. That's a lot of HP to lose, but I need the funds immediately. This character cannot zero stat, or has a bigger chance of zero statting, so it's a relevant worry. I could also take Vigil for a meat cleaver, but I have to do it, don't I? Yeah, Vigil into maybe Recluse or Metamorphosis. You take what is the Yellow Shore for $200? Oh, I don't know. I don't know the reference, I'm sorry, but oof. Yeah, I'm not saying ChatGPT doesn't have... I don't even remember what the original purpose of ChatGPT was. That's how bad it's gotten. I feel like I knew this 2 to 3 years ago, but was ChatGPT even out 2 to 3 years ago? As we get into this pull-ridden thing, which I don't have a weapon for, so I guess we're running. Please be a 4 damage meat cleaver at least. Okay, that's actually very good, so I'll take that. But off we go. Initial release date, November 30th, 2022, according to, well, a quick search on a search engine. But I feel like I would have remembered what it was, but I don't, so... bow clap, by the way. And we'll move on. Excuse me. Yeah. You're making fun of... Oh, don't go outside and pick some words. Yeah. Yeah. I try to do the same, although now, I mean, yeah, it's... Again, the situation around me has come to a point where I do need to start picking up slack that I've been dropping here and there, so... I had the holy candle, I did not take the holy candle option, I'm going crazy. That's really a big mistake. But... yeah, for work and groceries, and same thing here, right? And even where, like, I mentioned to you what my work is, so... What my work kind of is, so I'm inside for technically work as well. Or as much as I'm trying to work. I think... By the no, I'm not going to say that much. Basically, I'm trying to work from home, so... Yeah, I do something aside from game dev, but... Boy, that's why I said April was a bad month. Sadness. But if I do need to go out and do something, obviously I try to go out and do something. I promise to you, though, I'm not the best driver. So if you meet me in real life and ask me to drive you somewhere, I'm not the best driver. I'll do my best, though. If we have no choice, but if you meet me and I can drive, it's a thing. Also, we'll take Recluse now. Relatively low Doom overall in this run, aside from, you know, the Vigil and the, I think, something else. But it'll depend on my RNG. It will ultimately depend on my RNG. So let's make sure we can try to survive. We have to just take these rolls. My Doom getting too high will kill me too, so... Yeah. And that's how, well, I know, well, you know that I go out and do groceries from time to time because you've talked about me cooking things. Or you've heard me talk about cooking things. I think specifically I've also been trying to learn more curry recipes. Because curry is, I mean, as it turns out, if you haven't seen me in real life, or haven't seen my thumbnails of me, or just, I think on my channel I'm there too. I'm an Asian person, so we eat a lot of rice, and you can drizzle curry on rice. So, among just mixing a bunch of things like vegetables and meats, or so on and so forth. But, yeah. Learning dishes that are mixed with rice, along other things. I'm also interested in making dishes of other, you know, that don't involve rice. Why did I only do one there? I'm dead because of that. Did I really just forget to click there? Okay, we're doing one more salty run back. Okay, focus, Jordan. Focus. I do want to move on to other characters, but... speed run time, so... yeah. And a lot of people like to go... as it turns out, Curry gets to go a lot of places, also. Discharge summary. This actually could just kill us immediately, too, but we'll find out. Having 1 strength is really... or 2 strength here is, oof. But part of that is also that we're on Harbinger, so this character would have 3 strength, and it wouldn't be as bad, but because we do... it can get real troublesome real quickly. Now, the upside of medical history is that we can sell the medical kit for 2 funds immediately, unless random item statistic shenanigans. I forgot if I did, but we can... yeah. I'm gonna do scissors. I'm gonna do scissors and see. Timeline B, that's... can be good. Clap 4 bows. But I would have liked the Cursed Scissors. We're a knowledge character, so we have to celebrate the advantages we get. But hey, any dishes I recommend that most people haven't heard of? Without doxing myself? Or, I mean, I guess I don't mind. So, I am a... because, I mean, this information is available when you look up for it. Like, if you look for me in places, because I have entered fighting games competitively. So, I'm a Hmong person, H-M-O-N-G. So yes, we have something called, I mean, aside from just papaya mixes, which is often in Eastern countries and too, which can be either very flavorful, like just like curry. Curry is often, I'm gonna quote Yosuke from Persona 4. Nice 12 roll, by the way. Where curry is kind of mild or really spicy. In this way, papaya is also, it can be very flavorful in the flavor that is usually like soy, but there's a specific sauce in the papaya salad that Hmong people make, where you get 2 extremes. It's either heavily spicy, but it's very fragrant. Like your nostrils, again, as a writer, I can try to describe it. You can feel the spice in your nostrils, or it's very flavorful, where the flavor fills your mouth, and it's more soy flavored, I guess. Otherwise, the other one I wanted to say, let me try to actually remember this ritual. Clap, bow. Okay, clap, bow, 3 claps. Yeah, and then there is something called Nava. That's to kind of explain the pronunciation. Na, literally na, and then va, but you kind of add an H to it, so na va is a more dessert dish that looks like, basically, okay, now that I think about it, what am I trying to say? Let me see. Boba coffee? Why am I saying boba coffee? Boba coffee is the drink that has those balls at the bottom, right? Navan, it says essentially that, though, all throughout the drink, and it's sweet. That's why it's a dessert. So, think of basically it's a boba drink, or boba coffee, but it's not coffee. It's instead a sweet drink that has those balls almost everywhere, with there's sometimes other textures to it, so if you want a more chewier thing, I don't know why I'm talking, I really, it's also because we actually, funny enough, have Nava in our refrigerator right now, so I could try it out myself, or I'd take a picture of it, but, I mean, if you want me to, I'll take a picture of it and throw it up on, I guess, Twitter, or maybe even my YouTube pages, but it's essentially, yeah, it's a boba drink, but instead of only balls at the bottom, you have this texture of these balls that are normally not sweet. The drink itself is sweet, but it's made in such a way that the drink itself is sweet, but you have these, yeah, you have, if you like boba coffee, you would like this as a dessert, essentially. And that's what I'm trying to say. And then obviously, as a Hmong person, pho. P-H-O in English, but it has a very specific saying, so... yeah, specifically, I'm a Hmong American, but I was born in America, so that's... for all intents and purposes, I live in the United States as an American, and I just my lineage is Hmong, so... anywho. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. Again, at this point, this isn't like really too hidden knowledge, so I don't really mind just saying it. Also, what's my luck? It is 5, but wished I could have gotten that. Also, police station. Maxed out level seaside, maxed out level forest. I think I want to do forest. We at least want the handcuffs, that I know for sure. And yeah, we have a 5 damage wooden bat, so hey. So moving on. But yeah, it's unfortunate to say, but I am much more fluent in Japanese than my mother tongue, which I do feel a little bad about, but at the same time, pain. But at the same time, I don't regret the decisions I made. If there are regrets I can have, but that's not one of them. I just need an extra point of damage. Funny enough, a damage perk would have helped me out here, but we'll hold on to the medical kit for this encounter. Yeah, okay, that's not bad. Tiny Cuts is actually not bad, and then we'll do this. And we'll move on. So I want the handcuffs mainly for Ward, but it would be nice. Oh, we lost Bath. Okay, fine. The game just doesn't want me to win as this character. Or it's trying to do my best. This is really... I would rather be playing other characters, but this is what we get. So, again, the Holy Candle is a very, very powerful item, but I, for some reason, did not use the Holy Candle. Like, I'm really regretting not having 3 less Doom right now. Also, why did I start talking about... aside from the chat comment, there was another reason. But anywho, hey, we have 2 reason or below. Let's use that. Although I should have taken... If I saw leadership there, I should have taken leadership because we do want to try and survive. But at the same time, I can fit both of these. I guess I'm just going to throw caution to the wind and hope. Like, I don't understand. Now I'm curious. I think I know what the odds kind of are. I'm gonna guess like about 5%. Sorry, that I didn't do the math right. Why did I say 5%? The chance of me missing both of those... Oh, no, I did. Oh my goodness, I'm going... Also, Tiny Cuts again, that's nice. 6.25% chance of missing both attacks like that. Because I know I can't do this really reliable. Oh, I can. Never mind. I lied. I should have just done this. I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy! Help! We don't need the Holy Candle here. There are no Holy Candle events in the hospital unless someone decides to add some, but I'm just going to take the risk and move on with 1 stamina 2 reason. We just have to hope. Although, since we do have the winging it, or sorry, survival instinct, we should be trying to roll on things, but the game has given me no events to roll on, so pain. Lots of pain. Meanwhile, let's actually not do what I did earlier and do this time. So let's do this correctly. I know it's a medical kit. It's an army. I didn't know it was an army issued medical kit, but you know. So yeah, as I sit here and do things, oh boy. Oh boy! Also, I did want to say something else about game dev, and that's that. So I think I think even yesterday's stream I mentioned something along the lines of, yeah, I don't really get a lot of plugins, but at the same time, it's because there have been. I watched a few videos and/or streams talking about essentially the rights and/or privileges of a game dev, and essentially it was debunking the right that someone has to be a game developer. Because whether it's, whether someone is gated by time and or resources, whether someone is gated by just RNG in general being noticed, I think every person has a right to be a game developer if they so choose. The problem comes in whether or not you're making a game that's good enough, especially if it's a commercial project. Usually we're talking about commercial projects in this regard. If you're making a commercial project, is it going to be a good game? That's something that's thrown up in the air. But does everyone have a right to be a game developer if you put enough, for example, because I think RPG Maker is on sale right now. A lot of engines are on sale, or if not all of them. If you basically put down the $50, I say you have a right to be a game dev. Are you going to make a good game? That's thrown up in the air. So, by the way, I should be throwing these things. I don't know why I'm not. But yeah. And so part of that is also what I want to say is, I have put, it's been a span of at least, I'll just say a kind of a period of time, 5 to 10 plus years, where I've gathered the time and resources to really get into game dev. And that ties into the fact that when I was going through my thing, I basically had a meeting with myself and went, okay, I realize I don't actually have everything I need, so I need to actually go out and get more assets Whether get a font here and there, whether get a tile set here and there specific to RPG Maker. That's also specific to RPG Maker, get a few more plugins. You're gonna notice this stuff, even though the game itself may not be the most polished, but at this point, I'm in a point in my life where I'm like, just do something, Jordan, just do something. So, again, you'll see when I actually release it. Again, it won't be a full game, but hey. And then I'm also still working on a second game, but that's kind of taking the back burner as I have realized things, but we'll see. Yeah, so I have Survival Instinct, so I am getting that on top of Winging It. Winging It and Perception you're really supposed to combine, also Pain. You know, if Zectast would like to give me Charisma, I would also appreciate that, but, you know, we'll deal with what we've got. This should be real. This should be like 15 damage, right? Close. Well, 15 damage plus I need to throw one of these. I don't have the handcuffs with me, so I actually have made a mistake. And that's unfortunate, because now I'm 1 HP off. Do I have an ally to throw? Otherwise, we have to do... Oh, we can't even do that. Wow, really? Huh. Well, do I get bonus damage? I don't think I do. Okay, we did. I was gonna option... I option selected the throw in case I didn't have bonus damage, but we did, so... Woo! Also, we're on our 4th mystery with 28% Doom. Goes to show how lucky you can be, but we're on a Zectast run, so we're not actually as lucky as we think. So... And that being said, did I take the bath? No, that's right. We lost bath. We'll take leadership for the sake of surviving Zectast, and we will move on. So we die at 84% Doom still, I think. But only to Charisma. So here we are at Metamorphosis on our 4th mystery, by the way, but I don't think I've made a mistake in my mystery choices, despite what I usually do. I usually like taking Metamorphosis 3rd, but since we entered Ward and got our branches and broken bottles, I think that's better off than the average case. But this is not an average case. So yeah. That being said, I should put the police patrols in at the seaside. I would like a pack of cigarettes, but that's not going to happen with 2 funds, so... Because my Doom can suddenly shoot up to with the one time skip town effect, I promise you, it can get bad real fast. So yeah. But in the meanwhile, we'll do our best. And I will try to survive. That costs reason, right? So, no. I would like to keep this strength, and we do get to keep it. Is there anything else I need to do? Huh. Do we have enough here? I guess we're gonna find out. Lump of flesh, ins Masu look, that's fine for the moment. Because we should no longer be investigating the seaside, aside from the first lighthouse investigation, but boy, are we in a bit of trouble. HP-wise. So what can I do here? I don't think I can do 2 attacks with this. Oh, I can. 90%. I'll live if I hit this. I die if I don't. Good. You think the developer is a bit too technical? Being a creative director for a game is more accessible. Dev of video games, I assume? So... yeah, game dev, I mean, the way I'm using the phrase, and I feel it in my bones, but I can be not persuaded otherwise, but you get the point. Or hopefully you get the point. Where we're talking about game dev in terms of, well, at least RPG Maker, but obviously trying to make games in general, whether you use Godot, Game Maker Engine, Unity, Unreal. You are, well, in these days they're definitely called a game dev. I'm sure there's a more technical and accurate term for the thing, because then at that point you're also the... in some cases, you're the character designer, you're the main graphic designer, you are the person in charge of audio, even if you may be using audio assets from somewhere else, so on and so forth. So yeah. When you think of game developer, you mean pro coding? When I think of coding, I think of game programmers, or programmers in general, though it's because I see this on a lot of credits pages. When when a game is done, you look at the credits, you see things like, you see phrases like primer or main programmer, game programmer, so on and so forth. Something programmer, or programmer something, programmer lead, assistant programmer. that's just, I think that's just what you see. Again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that these days, again, it's definitely easy to not to assign these phrases because they're the phrases that are used most. As earlier in the stream, we talked about how the untrained eye talks about this stuff, but yeah. So yeah, and the game dev is technically, that's why, and even specifically, I've mentioned this before, I think, but I mentioned how my dream as a child was to be a game designer, and now I've just turned into the developer, which again isn't bad, but I think my strongest point in terms of, you know, developing video games, I think personally, is my designing of games. Watch this comment bite me in the butt when I release my game, and the design is absolute garbo. But if nothing else, I feel good about the fact that I'm actually going to take reason here because there are guaranteed reason events, reason loss events here. But I feel more confident in designing a game than any other aspect, whether it's making music, making characters, designing characters, you know, coming up with the advertising a video game, so on and so forth. Though this channel does help me out with getting the skills to advertise things. But, you know. So again, I don't think you're wrong. I think there are more than a few terms people use in the gaming industry in terms of assigning people tasks. Like, who is the programmer, who is the designer, who is the developer, who is the director, which is a very important part. Some people look down on directors. I don't, because you need someone directing. Otherwise, why do we have people directing, you know, stage plays or music things? You can apply the same logic to, you know, making video games. You need someone directing. Though, sadly enough, directors get a lot of flack because, boy, AAA games. But, you know. And if you don't know, essentially, yeah, we've had, you can have great voice actors, great people working on the audio, great people being able to, you know, great programmers under your wing, but if the director or whoever's in charge is bad, boy, the game crashes pretty quickly. Or is at least looked down upon by the general, by a lot of gamers, but, you know, it's not, it doesn't look good. So I die 84% Doom. I theoretically have 34%, which means I can rest like this, and we should be okay. If I somehow still die, that would be really strange. I'm just gonna rest. If I die, so be it. I don't really care, but fun. Anywho, so I should have just thrown everything here. I don't know why I did this to myself, but we're here now. I do hit both of these. Can I do this? No. So 10 damage, 3 Doom. We can't really brace anyway, so I might as well just do this. Oh, we get bonus damage, but doesn't matter anyway. That just saves me the trouble of having to throw the wooden bat at Takushi-san's fallen body. But as we move on, yeah, game dev is a heck of a beast. If it may not be the most necessary thing that human beings as a whole need in life, but if that's the case, a lot of professions would be made obsolete. But if nothing else, it gets money in, and yeah, that's when you get in between someone and money. Turns out people can get serious. But so as for this character though, just know that the character doesn't work right off. At least it didn't work for me. If you try it out and it doesn't crash, that's great. But yeah, the starting with the Holy Candle is a pretty good. Knowledge, I don't really like it as a stat, but it can be a very good stat, especially when you get a damage boost. As some of my runs have tried to work out, but otherwise paid. But we'll move into another custom character. So without further ado, as we move on, we get Holy Glyph, and I think this is spelled like this. So again, I pull the characters directly off where they're from. Yeah, this is a dead item. We'll stick with it, but every item that you add or a bonus that needs to be in all uppercase, basically items and perks and things are case sensitive, and in this case it needs to be all uppercase. But I think this is the only thing is this the only thing we started? Maybe I should probably just fix that myself. So what I'm gonna do, for the sake of actually playing this character as intended, is I'm going to go in and we're going to fix things, but I have to make a copy of the character. So yeah, let's do it. I think I have one. because I make sure I go over the files to make sure that everything works out. So let me fix that really quickly. It might shake up the character select a little bit, but again, it's for the sake of actually playing the character. So let's do this. So yeah, they only have one bonus, and that's the Ritual Dagger. Ritual Dagger, all caps. And that should be fixed. Now, I do have to unsubscribe, otherwise you're going to see a double version of a character. But, again, we're doing a thing! Help! So let me unsubscribe here. Please, move! Move, Steam Workshop page, move! I'm trying my best. And then... I don't know why I'm looking here. I'm trying to go here, into this, and then I need to restart World of Horror, so stop, or close the game. But either way, we're trying to do a thing. And yeah, let's restart World of Horror, and we should be good to go. Again, pull these characters directly from their source, and then just start the stream. I do spend like 5, 10, 15 minutes making sure that, you know, everything is working usually as intended at a glance, but if anything else breaks... just know that I've done my best, and I pulled things off directly from the source. So, customize playthrough, and then we move on. Yeah, so it's over on here, and I think this is an OC, an original character. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know for sure. So we're gonna find out as we actually get into the Ath World of Horror run. And yeah, now that it's in all caps, we can actually equip it. Stat spread, 3 strength, 5 dexterity, 8 perception, 6 knowledge, 5 charisma, and 5 luck, I think, from the brief glimpse I got. But yeah, having low strength and higher knowledge, well, perception, I might even trade out this Ritual Dagger for an Army Knife. But we'll try the Ritual Dagger first. No, we'll do Army Knife now, because I'll play to the character's strengths, and I'll mention that in a moment. Charisma, dexterity, knowledge, every single stat check, second encounter, and maybe Takshisan. But hey, I will still enable Legal Den, but what I meant by that is, so for this run, I can go Army Knife, because I have more Doom to spend on an Ath run. When we go into the Zectast run, I'm going to... Well, I failed to click that Bath a few times, but I'm going to keep the Ritual Dagger because we're a character who starts with a weapon. And characters who starts with a character who starts with a weapon has a much easier time on average than a character who does not, because you don't have to use up resources trying to get a weapon, whether that's RNG based or Doom based. So yeah. That being said, what are my things? I'm just gonna put the police patrol in the forest because I'm lazy. But we don't want to take Con F nothing else. You do things that fit your advantage. Also, just to kind of go off tangent for a moment. So the chibi sprites, I keep forgetting that you can adjust them to your leisure. Also, we will prepare for this. I'm leaning back from my chair. That's why my voice might sound different. But yeah, so for the Ashley mod, when I first released Ashley, I did my best with what I got. But then I realized I got basically updated graphics from an Anonymous, that they shifted the sprite over to the right because their version of the chibi sprite has the hair fluttering, which means that the main body of the chibi in general gets shifted to the right. Otherwise, I forgot if you're behind or above your ally layers, but essentially it makes everything fit. But as we move on and wait for these eels, I realize I have nothing to drink because I did not grab anything to drink before I started the stream, and that makes me sad. But yes, aside from game dev and what I'm going to do, aside from just food I think I was going to talk about that. But yeah, I already talked about that. Never mind. Curry. I was making curry, or planning to make curry. It's interesting too, and I'm not saying like I'm going completely from the ground up. Just gonna say this much, is that I guess I'll take nails now, is that I am using curry boxes, so while I'm not making curry from absolute scratch, I mean, there's already enough complicated steps in between using a curry box that has basically the what helps for the broth of curry, or just the curry in general, because you still have to prepare the ingredients. And boy, do you have to prepare the ingredients, because I've seen people prepare ingredients in real life thinking they can make a dish, and I was like, oh no, don't do that. Specifically in a cooking class. I took a cooking class at some point in my life. But yeah, it was real interesting, because I was like, oh yeah, there's no way you can mess up scrambled eggs. Like, I can understand maybe sunny side ups, but you can't mess up scrambled eggs, and I see people messing up scrambled eggs in real life. And so that's not a trope, that's a real thing. So I was like, I just, that was my snap back from, a snap back to reality. I was like, oh yeah, that's easy, you know. And then it's not, and I'm like, oh, how? And specifically, the mistake being made is that, one, the eggs are burnt, and two, as I nearly die here, let's just say that the cooking utensil that the person used was also burnt. I don't know how they did that with scrambled eggs. I can kind of understand it, but essentially, yeah, use both. You can't use too much oil, but you also need to use some amount of oil. And yeah, scrambled eggs are scrambled eggs. Now that being said, the bigger mistake that I can correct people on in terms of just, you know, making scrambled eggs is that they don't need to be in there as long as you think. So yeah. But at the same time, they do need to be cooked as well. Even though, yes, you can also just gobble down eggs in general, but, you know, I think I'm just going to take a hit to the face for the sake of just taking a hit to the face. We can't really brace into anything, and even if we braced into something, we would not get much. Because we will be at 25 HP, and I desperate action for 12 damage minimum anyway, so yeah. Now, could I have just defeated him? Sure, but yeah. Heard some people use butter with eggs. Yeah, the butter, I've seen ketchup, I've seen mayonnaise. And again, to each their own. All three of those options, I have heard other people say that ew, basically, and I'm like, I personally myself don't like anything with my eggs, but hey, and a sriracha sauce included. But yeah, I've been very vanilla, I guess. That's a real weird term to use, but it makes sense. I've been real vanilla with my eggs, basically, where I don't often add anything to them. I add seasoning, but I don't really add anything. I guess the better way to say it is I don't add any closer to liquids to my thing, even though peanut butter is not a liquid, but you get the point. Pepper, salt, specifically black pepper. I've used other types of pepper, white pepper, sometimes red pepper. Pepper flakes, but I don't often add anything to my eggs other than those two seasonings. So I'm really, really basic with it. You like Tabasco? Sorry, yeah. Sriracha, I definitely understand. Sriracha is as a main point of, well, at least from people I know in real life, is a real, like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Tabasco as well, though Tabasco, I mean, I'm trying to think who I've seen someone use Tabasco. I'm trying to think of who it was exactly, because I think I'm making a mistake in my mind. But anywho, I guess we're just taking 4 doom damage here. Yeah, there's a lot of different varieties of that as well. So I don't want to say for sure, but I know because the label Tabasco was on the sauce when I was talking about it. But yeah, that I've seen a lot of things. You can mix eggs with a lot of things. You can use egg sandwiches. I've seen people use egg sandwiches as well, whether they're boiled eggs cut into pieces or just scrambled eggs put between a thing. Also, I'll make a mention here to say that I've been at low points in my life, so I've had to make do with the food I have. I've also mentioned this, so I don't mind saying it anyway, but I have basically, as a snack, I have eaten, I'm not going to tell you how old I was, but I have eaten raw ramen packs without the seasoning, obviously. You just, basically, they're very crunchy, and so you just bite into those. Now, you have to be eating a very specific type of ramen, because you can't do this to all types, but, you know, you're a mayonnaise ketchup person yourself, yeah. I'm also mainly actually, I'm very picky with what I use my ketchup and barbecue sauce on, because I usually use barbecue sauce on meats that are been grilled, usually grilled or pan fried, but I only use ketchup, or I only rather prefer ketchup like in burgers and fries, and part of that does come from fast food. But again, that's not like, and then I only like, well, now I've liked, what is it? I forgot. There's something else you put on that you can put on hot dogs. I don't think it's called green onions. I think I'm just messing up the name, but you get the point, I think. Where I don't like mustard in general, so I don't use mustard on my hot dogs or really anything else. I can eat it. I'm not saying I'm gonna go "Ugh," and like be disgusted, but I prefer just ketchup on my hot dogs. So, or things like that. So what I mean by that is that I tend to be very picky with my sauces for some reason on what I combine them with for my food, because I know more than a few Japanese people in real life or otherwise. You can do this. Does this mean anything? I'm just gonna actually see what this. Okay, no, it doesn't. But yeah, more than a few sources, and that makes sense. Like, Japanese people tend to enjoy mayo a lot more compared to me, at least. So I understand it. It's just I don't prefer it myself. But at the extreme sources, I have also seen Japanese people go, "Ew, you don't use mayo," and I'm like, what do you mean? I get sad. Oh, relish, yes, relish for hot dogs, I believe, relish. So I understand, and I think it's the texture of relish that does for me, mainly than the taste. To describe it, again, I'm using my powers as a self-proclaimed writer to describe this, but relish adds the texture that is, I guess, more a little bit of crispiness or a bit of hard, as I remove the sensor bunny here, to the softness of both the bun and the delicacy of the meat. So I like that texture in my mouth, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Also, I'm still badly bleeding, so I could end up dying here. But I should have taken Town Mystery, but I heard to the Japanese root beer tastes like medicine to them. Yes, specifically, I think one of my Japanese teachers / professors mentioned that, like, oh, you guys drink root beer here in the United States, but yeah, it tastes more like medicine to me. And I'm like, I just shrug and go, I didn't really shrug, but you get what I mean. I was like, yeah. Again, I don't like root beer myself. Again, I don't even drink or smoke really in real life, but I don't drink or smoke at all in real life. But as I fail to do that, I was just curious what my RNG was like. I'll do a salty back run, but yeah, that's root beer to me is an acquired taste. I know back in the day, people treated root beer as kind of a test for actual alcohol, which this is not any advice. I'm just speaking from my own experiences as a human being of what I've observed and heard. But yeah. But blackberry brandy tastes like medicine to you. You do not recommend, and you love blackberries. Yeah, there's also a difference between the thing in real life and the juice of it. Like, I don't personally prefer blackberries myself, but I don't mind drinking the juice. So yeah, but as for things between, at least specifically Japan and the US, there's also a little difference in the sweet side of things. Again, just both from, I mean, we've heard it probably on the internet, but also in real life experience, I've spoken to Japanese people, and yeah, they're like, wow, there are things that, both the portions of food are larger. A large in Japan does not mean the same thing, is a lot smaller in general than a large in America, but also that sweets in America, like chocolates, are a lot sweeter than America than they are in. So and again, I've heard this in real life from a Japanese person who explained, where we're talking about chocolates. They're like, what is it? Mint chocolate? Yeah, mint chocolate. Mint chocolate tastes very sweet, and I'm like, really? But again, it makes sense because they've once brought. That person brought chocolates, and I ate these chocolates, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't taste like mint chocolate, but it was. If anyone knows what a Milky Way was, it tasted like a Milky Way, but with only a fraction of the sweetness of it. And I guess the only other way to speak about it more generally is that it tasted like mint chocolate, but without the minty part of mint chocolate. For basically Western countries like Europe, US, Northern America, that's what some, or a No, two pieces of Japanese chocolate tasted like to me. So that's how I was like, oh. And then a lot of people, obviously on the internet, you look these things up, and yeah, like, yeah, that are chocolate. And that's because it makes sense. They're normally healthier over there. So they usually find either natural alternatives or just alternative alternatives. Also, I'm not on Harbinger for some reason, so let me redo that. Oh my goodness. I was speaking about a lot of things. I mean, they're interesting things to talk about, but whoopsie doopsie. I was not on Harbinger. A shame because I got the katana, but, you know. Haven't had a Milky Way in forever, not the biggest fan of sweets. Yeah, I don't mind eating a lot more sweets now, but as I'm getting older and older, I'm like, yeah, I should probably curb things down. Again, that's why I'm practicing intermittent fasting right now. Because my body weight is not at a level that I'm comfortable with. But I'm also, obviously, working out would help a lot more. But, you know. But yes, in terms of food, I'm also trying to watch my diet, not taking too much, you know, sodium, carbohydrates, although carbohydrates is a kind of an exception. Because of how... that's something I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian. But I tend to be able to consume, for me personally, I'm not saying you should go and do it yourself, but I can consume carbohydrates a lot more than I can consume, say, sodium or sugars. But yeah, I'm also not the biggest, like, if you put chocolate in front of me, I'll eat it, but would I eat it to fill myself up for a snack? Usually, probably not. So let me just use this police station really quickly. Hospital, mansion. I think I have some mansion stuff. I don't remember at the moment. I know I have Akamanto. And we might have a few hospital investigations, but that's fine for the moment. But yeah, that's... Again, there are good parts about Japanese cuisine. I think I would rather prefer most Japanese cuisine than... let's just say certain American dishes, but American dishes at the same time, like you've heard me talk about it. I like making burgers. I like making, spaghetti is a different kind of thing, but you get the point. Burgers, fries. Have you noticed that a lot of these sound like fast food things? But steaks as well. Steaks, meats, learning how to grill and or pan fry meats, baked meats. I've baked, I wouldn't say I'm bad at like preparing pork. Though if you give me pork from the source, like actually like after directly from, well, if you asked me to be the butcher and the preparer, no. But if you handed me pork from a butcher, yes. But I'm not an expert either. You please rely on your friendly neighborhood local chefs if you trust them. Then me. But you don't like most seafood other than shrimp calamari. I don't know if it could survive in Japan. Oh, that too, right? Really? I got 2 STE events? Anywho. We're in timeline being as well, so this is gonna hurt because I have 3 strength. But we'll go for a broke. Did I use the library notes, by the way? Threat of Fate. Oh, only humans. We needed the other insta-kill spell. Well, hey. Also, yeah, we're just gonna trade blows here for a moment. Think of chocolate as a military ration food. It's an emergency energy. Yeah. I mean, you can take it as a sweet. There are... I'm not going to say health benefits, but there are appreciative benefits to chocolate. That doesn't have to do with a certain Wizarding IP franchise, but you get the point. Like, if you, like, the general happiness of a human being can be improved with occasional bursts of chocolate. This is not dietitian-y. This is not advice from a dietitian. I need to repeat that, but I do think they're a benefit, but yeah. There's a reason why there's an industry built around making chocolate, I guess we'll say. But yeah, other than that, yes, I don't prefer chocolates. If you hand it to me, I'll eat it, but these days, yeah, getting into other stuff. Also, on the topic of seafood, funny enough, I don't actually like if you served me something whole, I would be, I don't know, I'm not gonna say I have a phobia, but I get a bit of a freaked out factor when you like, if someone dropped me a crab or a lobster that's dead, obviously, but has been prepared, I will kind of be adverse to eating it, oddly enough. I don't know, I can't really, well, I can't explain it, but I guess it's the concept of death comes to me when you hand me, like, fish or seafood, just straight up. And shrimp is less likely to freak me out, but for some reason it's like, if I had to say, like, yeah, I'm not afraid of it, but it does something to my body on a reaction when I see it served to me, I'll still eat it, but I'll be a bit adverse in eating it. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Nice try, stop spamming caps, even though, yeah. Oh, it's because STE. Yeah, you're trying to do a thing and Nightbot was like, oh noes, but whoops. Well, I guess I'm going to do this. Then I need to remember to do something, so let me write something down. Sorry about that, but I do have Nightbot watching, taking the occasional watch, even though it hasn't protected me from everything, but I've done my best. But, anywho. Do a thing. Nope, I can't override Nightbot, so it's going to have to be that way. But basically, the person just said, found you, all caps, and Nightbot was like, oh no, that's evil. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not that study was discredited because I skewed the statistical results. Here's the state, yeah. Again, I'm not, someone in chat is probably more, I assume that's about the chocolate, right? Yeah, someone in chat is probably more versed in it than I am, but sticking on this is start 4-hour endurance race on Automobilist 2. Oh, getting done for an appropriate reverence. Ferret is evil, something truly evil, you might say. Anywho, we'll get into this. Yeah, we're in teacher right now. We have a few hospital investigations. I'm just going to take them in the face. We can let her sleep to lower the threat level. That would be much appreciated. But yeah. Yeah, I'm not denying that chocolate doesn't have antioxidants, but I'm also I would not recommend it as even more an occasional food, like maybe once or twice a week, if at most, but for me particularly, yeah. Still no Uzumaki. I think someone has tried, I think one of Haspin's events and his Haspin's event pack has an Uzumaki reference, but I can't remember. I thought there was also a reference in base World of Horror, but I could be wrong there as well. But, anywho, so I could handcuff this encounter if I so pleased. I think we'll just treat it normally. And in fact, no, we have to treat it normally. So, because I won't be able to desperate struggle as I put the sensor on screen quickly. Don't need it, but hey. The lighthouse, yeah, the lighthouse is an Uzumaki reference, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm also... Oh, that's right. Well, no, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Never mind. Forget... Oh, I did that. But again, it's not like I need to censor this boss, but I'm just going to do it for safety reasons. Also, I could do a thing here. So what I'm going to do... No, I can't. I can't. I'm just sad. Okay, well, we'll just take Badly Bleeding if we get it. Reaches the towns, one focuses on stories, remember. Isn't the obsessed guy in Kiryu Uzumaki? I think so. Or, if nothing else, they're definitely... I mean, the whole game is a Junji Ito reference, but as I get Badly Bleeding, and take off the sensor, and get time skip, I'm sure a lot of people, even just people playing because they know about Junji Ito in general, know more about Junji Ito works than I do. Also Flood. So, Badly Bleeding with Flood, that's not too bad. Flood is just... You're not investigating a lot anyway, but... Hey, with a dash of HP Lovecraft, which I think hasn't Junji Ito also made works not based but inspired by Lovecraft? Certainly, obviously, this game because, well, it's just innate. But again, if I had to remember off the top of my head, I would have to pull it up I would have to look for it on a search engine and be like, yeah, that works. Junji Ito was himself influenced by Lovecraft, so yeah, I mean, yeah. Turns out, Lovecraftian things or Cthulhu is a very popular thing. Also, pain. I don't know why I've done this to myself. I guess we're gonna run. Thankfully, it's school, so we're not losing too much Doom, but boy, the pain. I think we also have Akamanto somewhere. Oops, I rested a bit much. I only mentioned that because I was recently in tune to a stream that... basically, there are more than a few Japanese content creators and or VTubers that play TRPGs, and they are very, very much in so based off of Cthulhu. Or Lovecraftian references, but mainly Cthulhu. As someone who's played a Cthulhu theme, I'm not talking about the... Well, I'll say it because I think let me see. Let me just make sure I'm getting this right. Steam. Oh my goodness. Now I'm just saying. Yeah. I played specifically, I have a playthrough of Cthulhu Mythos RPG The Sleeping Girl of the Miasma Sea, made by Alchemy Blue. And that was an experience. They also have two other games on top, or 2 or 3 other games on top of those, but they're only still in Japanese, so I don't want to just push something on. I mean, that could be an interesting series to do. Me basically trying to live translate those games. Again, I'm not the most fluent in Japanese. My studies in Japanese have been slowed by myself, but I think they've also been a part of my Halloween special as well, but I can't remember at the moment. We'll trade off stamina, by the way, because we need to. But as we move on, yeah, Call of Cthulhu, but a lot of things are usually just say Cthulhu RPG or Cthulhu TRPG, at least in terms of a lot of Japanese made games or TRPGs. But Call of Cthulhu is definitely a more to me, a more Western held title to my heart because of very obvious references in there, but it's literally in the name. Do I want to take a risk here? No, so I'm just gonna brace. I'm just gonna brace and stand here and get hit. But yeah, as it turns out, the Cthulhu mythos in general is a very beloved, not franchise, but a very popular thing for people to be inspired by, and therefore make things about. But as I take more luck because I'm greedy and I could be building into knowledge, but no, I'm not doing that. Coma Sailors. Yeah, Coma to Sailors. Call of Cthulhu's TRPG is very popular in Japan also. Yeah, that's why you see a lot of... You definitely see a lot of, not spin-offs, but a lot of other works that branch out from that. Whether they're board games, whether they're digital games, whether they are actual video games. There's a lot that could be translated to English that are basically have been made in Japan. And I wish they were, but they're not. It would be very interesting, though, to see. Yeah, more, if not more than that, definitely around the same tier as D&D. At least from how I see it. But it's certainly a lot over there. Just like how certain IPs are a lot more popular in Japan than they are over here in the West, which might seem odd to both, like, from both sides of the aspects, like people wondering why, or, oh no, it's not really a wonder, so I'm not going to say that. But not much to talk about as I'm improvising here, but yeah, it's definitely a lot of popularity for things in the West that gets brought over to Japan. And the same thing vice versa, right? And then you have K-dramas knocking it out of the park because they're actors over there. Korean actors, or anyone involved in real life K-shows, K-dramas. I mean, Squid Game, not just Squid Game, but they put a lot of good work. Their actors are, they do a lot. They definitely smash it out of the park compared to pretty much almost every other country, if not every country. Oof. But just in terms of like the like cartoon and animation, Japan is definitely up there. Definitely up there. And it's gonna continue to be that way for a while, even regardless of AI and whatnot, because, well, the cultural relevance of cartoon and animations, because it's also had a very significant... More than a few people have gone over, let's just say, historical events, and therefore have been, not inspired, but they... a lot of anime is made, or mangas have been made, based off of real-life events, and so, therefore, cartoon and animations, manga, holds a very... how should I say... It's a very culturally important aspect of Japan. On top of a lot of other historical landmarks, events, points in time, references that exist. Yeah, you've only ever seen Liar Liar Game for K-drama, yeah. And I mean, part of the reason why you see a lot of, not just manga, because I think Boys Over Flowers has a Korean adaptation as well. That's why, in my opinion, from my observations, Korea gets a lot of light novel, manga, anime adaptations is because their live action actors knock things out of the park in terms of being able to do things well. But as for everything else, I mean, the Western scene has tried to make adaptations of things, and not just Japanese manga light novels, but they have not as been as successful. For whatever reasons they may be, I feel they have not been as successful. So, yeah, we'll just leave it to if we have to do live action things, I would rather watch a Korean adaptation, and that's all I'll say about that. There's something else I'm gonna say, but I'm just gonna store it in the back for now. The live action of that Hakusho disappointed you, but it was okay at points. If was there a Western adaptation for that? Now I'm curious. Hold on, give me about 10 seconds. Da-da-da. Da-da. Netflix that. And I think that was made by, from what I'm seeing, it seems to be made live action Japanese, right? Anywho, basically, if you have to do live action, if I had to put money down, leave it to South Korea. They tend to do a lot better in general. But if not, I mean, someone more knowledgeable can let me know, because this is just based on my opinionative observations of what I've seen and what I have not. Meanwhile, Double Branch toss away for the side quest. Not that we got anything for it, but hey. And away we go. Animated version of Uzumaki coming out has come out. Yeah, you concur. Yeah, and again, the same works excuse me. We've seen the same thing in reverse, right? Where live action has been adapted to anime and manga, but I feel we've definitely seen a lot more adaptations towards live action. And again, it makes sense. The idea is there. The fantasy of oh yeah, I want to see what this would be like live action. You don't always need to, but again, in my opinion, if you can do it well, be my guest. If you can't do it well, be prepared for the pain, but we'll see. We'll see what else happens in the future. And that's all I can really say about that. When is it coming out? Oh yeah, I have no idea. We'll leave it to someone in chat to answer that question. As for this run should be relatively smooth sailing. I have flesh regrowth as well, so I shouldn't really die. But we'll find out. I'm keeping the handcuffs in case I run into something, but hey. As for the last time I went out to see a live action movie specifically, I actually remember this because it happened relatively recently, but it had to be... Why am I going crazy here? Oh my goodness, now I'm going crazy. Now I need to look up this movie just to make sure. Nope, it wasn't that. It was a world about dinosaurs and the dominion that they stay in. That's what I'll say about that. I should not have traded reason for stamina there, but it's not like I'm using these spells anyway. But yeah, I saw that movie specifically with a close person of mine. So yeah, and we went there and we had a fun time. Because the person in question knew a bit about the lore, so... J-drama is really tropey. Western films are very much Hollywood celebrity endorsement. Yeah, so again, I'm not saying that there's no authenticity in general. I'm just saying that as we get Book of Gore, that K-drama, they tend to, focus on... more often than not, they actually... I'm not saying that other people or other cultures don't respect the works, but they tend to respect the work a lot more, while... For some reason, again, it turns out if we had to think of real-life adaptations of certain things, especially if they're made in Korea, then yeah, live-action actors, we think of those actors as the characters. To some extent, obviously. If the actor in name just has a big name, then you don't really associate them with the character, even though that's not true. Everyone knows Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, but Yeah, it's I tend to rely again. If I had to think of live action, I think of South Korea. So second strategy. Not saying that not saying that Western or Japanese actors don't have their sway. They definitely do. That's why we have big names like that. But as we move on here, stamina. Let me just make sure I don't die. I shouldn't die. If I do, so be it. Like it's not like I have the doom. I have the power. So hey, yeah. I was gonna say something else and I completely forgot. But anywho, I completely forgot what I was. Teacher? Yeah, teacher. And let me continue moving on. So all this talk and all this bumbling with the characters I've been playing means that I'm only gonna get through 2 characters, but I'll do the 3rd character, I guess, as a separate video. If nothing else, I really don't remember. But I really wanted to talk about the thing I was going to talk about, and I forgot about it. All I have left is the feeling of wanting to talk, and I was like, but as we move into a Zectast run, any anime or manga I'm looking forward to? Funny enough, I remember what I was going to talk about, but as we get into Zectast here, let me just actually write it down, otherwise I'm going to forget. But really just updates to things. Because actually it's not specifically anime manga. I will try to answer that to myself, but it's more light novels. I'm looking forward to future light novels that may or may not be coming out or be updated, where I can reach them. As for anime and manga, funny enough, I don't know if it actually completed, but I basically read a lot. Let me just make sure I'm not going crazy here. Because as I mentioned before, I don't actually have a lot of time and or resources, so I look for free. Please do not pirate anything, but I do look for. So, for example, I'm looking up. Yeah, for example, I look on Webtoons. That's not specifically anime or manga, but I guess that also says that. Basically, the short answer is no. I'm not looking forward to anything because I don't really see anything. If you recommend something to me, I'll take a look at it, see if I'm interested. But I usually look for free things. So basically, instead of anime and manga, I'm looking for people who are starting out, like whether they're doing light novels, whether they're doing cartoon comics in the anime or manga format, which is why I reference the site Webtoons, not sponsored by the way. Strength, dexterity, knowledge, every single stat check like Takushi-san. And other things. Yeah, so obviously I'm in tune with things like new seasons of Overlord, ReZero, any revivals of certain franchises, and I'll leave it at that. But for manga, even like just being like in tune with the Tite Kubo, Bleach, they're no longer obviously, but I think they have a new series they're working on. Obviously, the new seasons or the ongoing manga of Chainsaw Man, so on and so forth. Jujutsu Kaisen, or aka to me known as Jobber Kaisen. I'll explain that in a moment, I promise. I'm not that I'm saying. Again, the artist, and the people behind Jujutsu Kaisen are very, very good at what they do. But there's a really funny reason it's called that. But yeah, the short answer is no, because there is a very. I'm more in tune with light novels, or more basically people who are trying to make a name for themselves. Basically amateur mangaka, so on and so forth. So, and I'll mention one in a moment as I think about what I'm going to do here in Zectast, but let's do House of Hell first. And yeah, indies basically. And hey, as an indie game dev or someone who plays a lot of indie games, is it really surprising? But at the same time, the serious answer is yes. Because it's unfortunate. I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying that anyone who works on like things like One Piece and stuff are bad. It's just that it's getting harder to stay in tune with those. Especially as I'm looking for, things that are interesting to me in terms of more different varieties of genres, whether it's horror, whether it's comedy, whether it's rom-com, whether it's slice of life, so on and so forth. So, in those specific examples, let me write this down because I forgot. Oh, so for example, there is a specific light novel that I was in tune to that I basically read I think it's in Japanese. But it's available. I know it's available on a certain, because there are various sites for, like, for example, for Korean light novelists, for Japanese light novelists, for anyone making Xantia those type wuxia type novels for China in Chinese. Basically, for Japanese, I can read somewhat. So I was really interested in things like, obviously, Intergalactic Space Lord, but specific, there is one about an orc that basically, the protagonist looks like Guts from Berserk. But if you know what I'm talking about, you know. If you don't, you don't. And in fact, I shouldn't even be mentioning this, actually, now that I think about robots. But as a passing glance, and one, this stream is also not monetized, so I don't have to worry. But yeah, they have to conform to the manifold of general public perception. Conform. My problem is that it actually there's a whole process they have to go through. So basically, updates are less frequent, even though you could argue the same for light novels. Like the person making the light novel is the only person writing it, or in some cases also doing the art, or having someone do the art for them. But in general, it's a bit more. There's a bit more that's going on. Again, I can't describe it at the moment because this would have to be off the top of my head, and I don't want to say any misinformation, but yeah. Again, Intergalactic Space Lord is also available in Japanese if you know how to read Japanese, and it's like, I can do my best, but I understand it a lot more, so, but yes. But also, then I'm also looking at people who are writing basically, one day I'd like to read The Wheel of Time, even though that's not like an indie author, but I do like to, go off and read certain things off on my own if I have the time and resources available, or if there's someone, starting out, writing things, for relative freeness, then yes. But basically, there's a lot, even if they exist in the vein of isekai, which has been worn down and hammered on 6 feet under the earth, but it still kept people's interest, then yes, there are still a few gems you can find out there. But at the same time, pain. So, yeah, let me actually explain myself. So, the reason why... so someone mentioned a funny comment about Jujutsu Kaisen, and while yes, you can argue this because you can say, Jordan, there are a lot of characters that exist. There are a lot of series that have like 10s and 20s of characters elsewhere. But someone mentioned a comment about Jujutsu Kaisen. It's like, yeah, these characters have their own arcs and stuff, but they end up like jobbing in more than a few arcs. So I'm just like, and so they called it Jobber Kaisen. I'm like, yeah, I guess when there are only like a handful of characters who are actually, their power levels are relatively high compared to the other characters who, get their power-ups and whatnot and still, like, job. And for those who don't know the term, basically jobbing is, like, if you're not there to establish the power level of another character by losing, you basically, like, wow, you powered up, and then you proceed to lose anyway, or get a curb stomp battle. So, that's kind of what I mean, and that's kind of... I see it. When I was looking at, like, the general arcs of Jujutsu Kaisen and what happened, I'm like... wow, that's interesting. And then I looked at how many characters are in Jujutsu Kaisen, and I'm like, oh, Jobber Kaisen. Because there are a lot of Jobber characters. They go through apparently they go through some evolutions here and there, but it's like, why are they still losing then? Like, so yeah, it's called Jobber Kaisen to me because that one comment by someone that knows about it more, I'm like, oh yeah. And then they called it that, and so in my mind, it's always called that. Again, I'm not saying anything like derogatory. I hope it's not too like derogatory, but I see where that distinction is made, and now because it's stuck onto my mind, I just can't not see it. Also, pain because of Zectast, but I would have liked to brace here. Can I somehow get out? I can, right? I can throw the ritual mask. I don't have the handcuffs, unfortunately, but I can still take this in the face. It's Jobber, the reference, I assume, the reference that I'm making to pro wrestling where you're supposed to get demolished to hype up the heel. And so, yeah, I think that to me, it sticks in my mind. I'm sorry if it offends anyone, but it's just stuck in my mind. It's now whenever I hear Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm like, oh yeah, Jobber Kaisen. Actually, I'm trying to think about it because the main counter argument is obviously that there are other IPs or manga, anime, light novels and whatnot that have a bunch of characters. But light novels, you can't really apply that to light novels as much because they're just about... well, one, they usually focus on a Gary Sue, Mary Sue anyway, and two, I'm trying to not die to Zectast, by the way. And two, they normally establish, like, there are more than a few side characters and even most light novels than Jujutsu Kaisen, in my opinion. that experience I never got the handcuffs, did I? Or did I use them? I must have used them. That they become relevant. Basically, a lot more side characters become relevant in light novels than they appear to do in Jujutsu Kaisen. But that could change if a future arc, ends up meaning more. But and that's all I can really say about it for the moment. I would like that. This Ryoko. I was about to say sewing kit. I said that because I was looking at the sewing kit. Well, we'll take Ryoko. And off we go. You want to read Duranki, but it's only available in German and Spanish. Yeah, I've heard about it, but as you mentioned, like if I'm to look for it, like I don't have the time or the resources or the language capability, but you get the point. So, and even if I did have the time and resources, I'd probably just be spending it on either game development or video games in general. Also paying. I got the Tainted Violin, that's sad, but we're on our third mystery with 30% Doom. All things considered, we're doing well on Doom. Where did this Tainted Violin come from? Anywho. Alas, yes, alas. Yeah, so while I would like to stay in tune with the more popular anime, manga, light novels, while I do have Netflix and subscriptions here and there, it's harder to stay in tune with, because otherwise, all you really have on a lot of those, well, I'm not saying Netflix specifically, but subscription services, are either things I've already seen, or things I don't, like, it's tried and true, I'm not going to say it's absolute garbage, but it's something I've seen already. The only one special mention I get is Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but that's a heck of a reference, that's a heck of a name drop to make, but it's something I've watched on a subscription service, and it was really interesting. Listen, tyranny, but what if it's not tyranny? What if the ruling king? What if we need a ruling king rather than a democracy or anarchy, or a communic whole? But anywho, as I get toward here, watch Summertime Rendering on Hulu. Oof. Yeah, I think Hulu is one of the few subscription services I haven't really used yet. I would like to, but hey. Also, nice luck check, by the way. Do I die here for that? We're gonna find out. But yeah, without further ado, I am going to rest here for safety reasons. I'm gonna continue resting here for safety reasons. Because while we have the ability to rest, we're gonna do so. I don't believe in this character's ability to pass many checks reliably, so hey. Pick up the coin. Hey, 1 fun. That's free 1 fun. Alright, I'm gonna take that every time then, if I continue using this. Also, thank you for giving me charisma now. I guess we'll take it. But hey, the Doom is still better spent resting there than resting at the lighthouse. That's the important part. Otherwise, I could start running. But we don't need to, because I want the experience too. Oh, that's right. I have a thing, and now I can't actually fight well anymore. Wow, that's really unfortunate. Instead, I'm just gonna run. I'm just gonna run. That's really... I know we're in ward, but still, that's really unfortunate. So, away I go. I could still die here because of that. I could die here because of that now, but we'll find out. We'll find out. So yeah, as for what's on my plate, again, if I don't already have the time, I'd rather stay in tune with video games than anything else, but I'm also, as I mentioned, more in tune with light novels than anime and manga. So the short answer is no. There's not really anything I'm looking forward to. I'm aware of things like new seasons of... Well, it's kind of... Because when someone mentions anime and manga, I usually think of series that are... we're running from this, by the way. Well, I usually think of series that start off as anime and manga and not adaptations. Like ReZero was an adaptation from a light web novel. Overlord was an... pretty much a lot of anime and manga that are coming out right now are adaptations of light novel web novels. And I don't really blame companies for doing that, because there are a lot of good stories that can be adapted, as a few that I've mentioned. But yeah, light novels to be manga. I'm not gonna argue with you there, but I would stand by light novels because they're mostly, I mean, while they do have illustrations here and there For web novels specifically, they are definitely web novels and not manga because they are literally just text at that point. But I mean, that's more a phrase that gets attuned to Japanese and Korean and well, everything really. That's a lie. I just lied. But but yeah, no, I can see why also you can consider light novels as manga in the sense that yes, they're being paired with illustrations, so it's easier. They're in that little gray zone, I guess, is what I'd call it. But at the same time, as I take nearly 3 reason damage or 4 reason damage to the face, if I can hit this, I'm just gonna gamble on this. By the way, if we die, we die. Okay, good. Yeah, moving on. So, yeah, obviously, light novel adaptations, they have their worth. I knew it was going to happen eventually. I'm still waiting for it, because a lot of... I should have mentioned it. Now you just have my word on saying it, but a lot of light novels I knew were going to become adaptations became adaptations. So, I guess the only one I'm really waiting for after this is Lucia. If you don't know what Lucia is essentially another second chance shoujo type shoujo type manga with a female protagonist, and that's all I'll say about that. But yes, that's the only one that I'm waiting for, because I look at things. Oh, the big one that has already come out, but I knew was going to be adapted as well, is Mushoku Tensei. I was like, I read that as it came out when I had the time and resources to actually read it as it came out in Japanese, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be a hit. I mentioned it before, but I didn't really agree with how the story, is, but I eventually we're just gonna gamble on this as well. Good. But I was like, yeah, this is big enough, and then it completed as a light novel / web novel, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be adapted. But then other than that, yeah, Lucia is the other one, Lucia, and yeah, that's the only other. I'm not really usually good at predicting things like this, but if I had to, as we nearly die here, I would say that one. So yeah. Strength, dexterity. Do I die here, by the way? I think I die here. We have this for stamina, but what else do we have? We don't have a spell I can forget, right? Nope. So I have to rest once. Do I get to level up, at least? No. Let me check the house. I should have taken reason. Did I not bath and take reason? I'm going crazy. No, I took reason. I think I die here. Unless we have something I can get rid of. Well, I should have old coined away insomnia. That's what I should have done. Well, we'll do our best. But definitely could have survived this one. I should have survived this one. Anywho. Yeah, you spelled it right. I forgot what it... I thought it was a Korean... I don't think it's a Japanese light novel. Well, blah 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 blah. I'm looking at a thing. Yeah, it's a Korean... It was a Korean, I think, web... Or it started as a web light novel, now it has a manga. Just like a Stepmother's Marsh... I forgot, I can't spell that one. But I think that one, I think, is a little bit more accessible. But the only reason why I mentioned that one in particular, and it may not be the best, again, I'm not great at recommendations, but it's because it was one of the earlier ones of its time relative to anything else that came out. So I looked at it, and it's now completed. So if you have a legit source you can go to read it in English or whatever language you can read, then yeah, it's completed. And I was like, yeah, I can see this one. And I think that's why it eventually did get its manga adaptation. But as a shoujo, again, I'm interested in anything, no matter what genre it is, as long as it's interesting to me. And I know that doesn't help out much, but hey. Also, so if you have to go, I'd like to thank you for watching. Otherwise, we're just going to close out or talk about whatever. We'll turn this into a semi-Zatsudan and semi-not, because there's a few other things I do need to mention. But yes, in terms of light novels and stuff, I can go anywhere I want. I forgot what it was, but I remember coming across a thing where it was like about the romance of a 20-year-old princess and like a 60-something-year-old man. A cool guy, basically. But yeah, as for things that are available in English, that's why I look for things in English. So if I can find a legit source of something, I usually try to go to it, and I'm like, yeah, that looks cool. Otherwise, the other thing I want to talk about is I think Lookism has been getting a lot of traction as well, and has also gotten a. It's funny. It's funny because I think Lookism started as a manhwa, if I'm pronouncing that right, but then it got its real life adaptation. But the manhwa itself has characters that are based on real life individuals. So that's one I was thinking of when we were talking about Korean actors and live actors and stuff. I was thinking about Lookism, Lookism, and I'm pretty sure that's a big manhwa in Japan, right? Korea, but also in general, internationally. And it's important for me to think about these things because they do, in a weird way, tangentially relate to game development. Because I look at when I'm looking at light novels and whatnot, I'm looking at how a plot is designed. I'm looking at how the characters are designed or described. I'm looking at, what makes a character interesting, what makes a plot interesting, what works and what does not work. And so I carry that back over to game dev, when I look at those things specifically. So same thing for movies and whatnot. I look at what works in movies and what does not, because that helps in terms of placing things at a very graphical level. One thing that you'll notice on my channel that I have applied from those things is that I often put things in a very Golden ratio type way. So if I were to describe this, so after the second hour of the stream, this is turned into a Zatsudan for however as long as I'm gonna go, but probably gonna be 5 to 10 minutes. It depends. But let me see here. Let me do this. So, actually, let me do another thing because that is not gonna be great for my OBS sorting thing. Paid. So, if I were to describe the things I've done for myself as I transition to the screen for a moment. So you'll notice that my videos, my thumbnails look like this. So there's a little ratio here. I won't call it the golden ratio. It's basically a 2/3 rule of sorts though, or tic-tac rule, whatever you want to call it. But you'll oftentimes, as I looked into in research lately, and it makes sense for me, but I don't know if anyone else has noticed it. So you'll notice me usually placing things like around in these areas. That's because from an advertising standpoint, the human eye is usually, drawn to these parts of a screen. So specifically for video thumbnails, but if you're just designing, say, an interface or something in general, you usually want things to be within these, on or around these lines. Because anywhere else, then it's harder for the human eye to really, I guess, appreciate, is what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, I also apply a lot of other types of things, like... So that's why you've seen me put like text up here, black bars here and there. It's something that I've grown accustomed to, and it kind of makes sense, right? It does, for me at least. It looks more pleasing to the eye. At the same time, there's also another rule in terms of things that I usually try to sort out. And again, if you want to apply this to your own stuff, feel free to. But the other rule is the horizontal vertical rule. So the human being, and this you'll see this a lot more in FF14. But in FF14, how, if you don't know, oftentimes action-based, or if you know World of Warcraft, actions are placed like this. That's because the human eye is it's less difficult for the human eye to gather a lot of information horizontally than it is for them to understand things vertically. So if you had a lot of text like this, it's harder for the human eye to really read this than it is if you had lined things out horizontally like this. And so that's why, and it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me because it's less difficult for me to understand things like that than it is vertically. But yeah, that's why at least even the default is structured in that way. While the party list is like this, it still tries to add as much information as it does horizontally than it does vertically. And in another way, you can treat it as if you can play around with this as well. So while it's harder to read things vertically, that does mean that it's easier to snap your focus from, say, this player's name or their information and look down at this player's HP and whatnot vertically. And so I try to apply the same to myself when I am doing things in game dev or designing things. But it's not always possible, but I do my best. And then sometimes you want to break that rule and whatnot, but in that case, it's a matter of breaking rule. Again, I guess this is more an ask me anything or comment about anything Zatsudan at the very beginning and talking for the last part of this. Because there are a few things. And so, yeah. So if you want to ask anything, feel free to do so now as I talk about probably my last topic, so game dev stuff. I know I always talk about it, but I also wanted to kind of ease people in case, you know, I don't want to just bring an RPG Maker game out of nowhere and just start playing it, because that would make no sense. So, yeah, on that note, I'm on the, again, looking at what I have and what I don't have. Basically, if I haven't already mentioned it, I'm sitting on a lot of assets that I can be used commercially, so all I'm doing is making a game where I'm just throwing a bunch of those assets in. Now, obviously, you don't want to just, I don't want to just hodgepodge or crazily just put things in. There is still a design, a nice design aspect of using tile sets appropriately, not making sure that this forest does not have the same type of tree 90 times, making sure that the inside of a house, houses are a bit more structured and whatnot. They're built in a certain way, but when you're making nature, when you're making plains, when you're making deserts, nature tends to be a bit more chaotic. Though since humans or non-humans have walked or flown or traveled across paths, they're a bit more random in terms of designing environmental stuff. So I'm paying attention to that as I'm making maps, as I'm making, the mechanics of the game, how I want things to structure, because while you want things to look aesthetically pleasing, they also have to make gameplay sense. So that's all. That's where I'm at in gameplay. But again, I'm starting off really small, so it won't be a lot. It really won't be a lot. But I do want to do something here in the month of June, before we move to July specifically. And then yes, also still working on custom content for World of Horror if I can. It's been really slow or near enough non-moving. So I guess the one last thing to close out the stream, if there's nothing else, is that for tomorrow's stream, I'm doing a bunch of Yumiko runs and I have to survive them all, otherwise I have to do a thing. Otherwise, there will be a third character video putting out. I need to do another event of the day at some point, otherwise it's going to turn into event of the week, and that's a bit too slow. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Not really much else more to the theme. I don't want to take up more of your time, so if there's nothing else, I'd like to thank everyone watching now or in the future for watching, and I will see you when I see you. Again, if that video doesn't come out today, I'll probably come out tomorrow at the latest, but I really want to do it today. It's a character that, now I kind of regret not doing the character in the stream, because now I have to make a thumbnail about it, and I don't want to do anything weird, but that's up to the robots to decide. But yeah, I won't take up more of your time. I really much like to thank you for watching. If you want to support me, feel free to support me however you want to, and I will see you when I see you. Bye!